Our guest today directs an agency that is responsible for the planning, funding, construction, and maintenance of highways, transit systems, airports, and intercity rail systems. Governor Blagojevich appointed our guest today as Secretary of the Illinois Department of Transportation in January 2003. Prior to that, our guest today was Chief Operating Officer of the Chicago Public Schools. He was responsible for implementing the $3.2 billion capital program, as well as the day-to-day operations of more than 600 schools. Our guest today holds a Bachelor of Science in Engineering and an MBA from the University of Illinois. Please welcome back to the City Club of Chicago, the Secretary of Transportation for the state of Illinois, Tim Martin. Tim? It's all yours.
Oh, thank you.
Have some fun.
Jay, thank you. Where's Sarah? Is Sarah here, or did you leave her back at the office doing work? I want to thank her for taking all these reservations, getting everybody in the right place at the right time, and also finding a way to squeeze us in. And folks, raise your hand. Are you a member of the City Club? Okay, Jay, there's still some fertile ground out here. Folks, this is what membership in the City Club gets you. First come, first serve at events like this. Invitations to all of the debates where history and news are made. And I think it's absolutely great. And Jay introduced a lot of folks, but he left it up to me to introduce the staff for IDOT. I get to come up here today, and there's 6 phases of a project, and it's kind of praise and honors for those uninvolved, and that's what I am. But will all of the IDOT staff please stand? Come on, guys. These are the folks that make it happen on a daily basis. They allow me to come up and talk about the good things. They allow me, as you'll hear, promises made, promises kept. Why is Jobs for Illinois, Governor Blagojevich's capital program, important? We do talk about jobs. We talk about schools, we talk about roads, and we talk about public transportation. 3 things I've been fortunate enough to be involved with almost all of my life. 3 things that you can never get enough of. Capital programs are great, but they need to be ongoing and they need to grow. We need to make sure that we fund them properly. Because without them, we start to see what happens. Without a good program for schools, we start to see deterioration in buildings. We start to see buildings close. We start to see students not learning. With it, things get better. With it, kids don't have to worry about a coat in a classroom. Kids don't have to worry about that classroom not being open because the roof leaks. Kids don't have to worry about 45 kids in a class. Now, when some of us with gray hair went to grade school, there were 45 kids in a class, and we were able to learn somehow. It doesn't happen anymore. So we have to battle overcrowding. Why now? The cynics will say, oh, the governor's doing this as an election ploy. Isn't that anything? He needs to run for election. Well, he did do something with the legislature and with a lot of other people. Paul's here and other state people are here. He faced a $5 billion deficit the first year. Got over that hump. $2 billion the second year. Got over that hump. Last year, he proposed a capital program, proposed a way to do it, and it died in a partisan vote. And what's different this year? Why just wait till next year? What's different this year is last year a federal bill was signed out in Aurora by President Bush for transportation for the country and most importantly the state of Illinois. And it was signed there for a number of reasons. Thank Speaker Hastert for his hard work. Thank the Illinois delegation for being bipartisan. Showcase how essential Illinois is to transportation throughout the country. So that's why this year is different. Waiting till next year? Sure, that's an option. Anybody understand what inflation has done to the construction industry in the last 12 months? You want to wait? More inflation, fewer projects. Here's what it does. Improve education. The governor talked about how he has put more money into education operations than any other governor in the past. More in 1 year than some previous governors in 4 years. Okay, you take into inflation and things like that, it's still more real money in more classrooms than ever before. They could have taken the easy way out and not found different ways to fund it. The governor found ways to fund it. Absolutely need more money for education. But right now, nobody wants to talk about it. You offer an idea, people shoot it down. Here's a way to fund education capital. Strengthen our economy. We absolutely need to create jobs. Illinois is doing bang-up work. One of the top 10 states last year in creating new jobs. The year before, folks were saying Illinois is at the bottom of the list. They don't say anything anymore. Top 10 states of creating jobs in 2005. Is it enough? No. Do we need to create more jobs? Absolutely. One way to do it, ask anybody, creating good, solid public works programs that are affordable, will create jobs, put more money into more people's pockets, and provide more improvements. That's what it's all about. A program that's defined by the locals, not from our office in Springfield, not from the Schaumburg office, not from any place else, but by the locals throughout the state in public hearings. You've had forums here, many of you know about the CREATE program. People have been talking, where's the leadership for CREATE? It's there. $100 million came from the federal government. The governor's Jobs for Illinois program talks about doubling that and putting another $100 million into the program. There's the leadership, but it doesn't get there unless people take a vote. Improving safety. This program will allow us to put another $20 or $30 million a year into our multi-year program to improve safety. That's key. We still kill 1,300 people on our roads each year. We've got to drive that number down. It used to be 1,500, now down to 1,300. But that's still not low enough. People want to talk. What's the program? Show us the details. Anybody can go on to the website for the state of Illinois right now and find the details. It's there. There are books. We didn't pass them out. We don't need to kill more trees. Go on to the State of Illinois website, look for the Jobs for Illinois component. Go on to IDOT's website, www.dot.il.gov. You can find it. The list of projects is there. We've responded. There it is. People want to know what it is. It's there. Schools. There's $180 million worth of projects that were promised under Illinois First that there was never enough money to pay for. The governor has shown a way to pay for it. Showed it last year, it got defeated. Showed it this year. Some people said, no, that's not the way to pay for it. If for 2 years in a row he comes up and says, here's the projects, here's a way to pay for it, and people don't like it, someday you're going to have to say, I'm not for the project, if you're a legislator. If you're not a legislator, you got to tell your legislator that project is important to my district, to my people, to my family. Public transportation. $425 million will let us leverage $1.7 billion to get about $2 billion worth of capital. Is that enough? No. We'll get into some of it. Highways. I can talk for hours and hours about highways, and we won't do that right here. The need is absolutely real. Again, the local communities came up with the projects. They're the ones that said, we need something on US 30. They're the one that said, we need something on 47 in McHenry. We need something on 47 in Kane. We need improvements in Lake County. We need to help do something with Create. We need to do something on US 30 down in Will County, where homes are going up at a faster rate than just about any other county in the country. Yet we're not able to keep pace with the road program to tackle congestion. The governor has shown a way to do it. We've got to work together in a bipartisan manner. They did it in Washington. When the president came to Aurora during the summer, as we were all sitting out there in the heat watching him sign the bill, they talked about bipartisan work where everybody got together and passed the bill. The governor, having just come from Washington, knew how partisan it was. The first things, when he was asked by the press about the bill, said, I think we got to do this in Springfield. He was amazed at how they all worked together because he saw the elbowing on other issues in Washington when he was there. But they all worked together, and it showed. Illinois came in third in terms of total earmarks across the country. Came in second in terms of above-the-line earmarks. Came in third in terms of overall formula increases. The time before, under Safety, we came in 47th, folks. A strong delegation led by Speaker Hastert, Senators Durbin and Obama, Congressman Costello, Congressman Kirk, Congressman Jackson, everybody else working together, didn't say, I'm only looking at these, I'm only looking at ours. They said, what's good for Illinois? The two senators didn't say, well, I'm only going to match projects and earmark projects and folks who have a D after their name. They put them throughout the state, ladies and gentlemen. And they didn't worry about politics or partisanship. That's why the governor said, we got to take a page from Washington and do it here in the state of Illinois. And he's proposed it. Secretary Mineta of the U.S. Department of Transportation said, there aren't Democratic roads, there aren't Republican roads. There aren't Democratic freight, there's not Republican freight. It's all of ours. That's why we all have to work together. It's affordable. I'm going to show you some numbers. People will say, show us the money. Show us the revenue stream. It is, and we'll get into detail at the end. I don't want to do it now. You'll all fall asleep because you got the dessert, you got the pasta and everything else. We will show you how we pay for it. We will show you the dedicated revenue sources. All you have to do is go onto the website. It's been on the website since January, folks. Take the time, pay attention. Take the time, call your senator, call your representative, and ask them where they are on it. You want a list of the projects? It's there. You want the revenue source? It's there. You want the assumptions? They're there. What's missing? We've asked for what's missing. And I can tell you, if you look at that document that's on the website, it's not all the money is all pledged. Heck no. There's enough money out there to work together. And that's been one of the problems with the program. Some people say, oh, you're just going to add more earmarks. No, there are rules of the program that says it's a good project if it's asphalt and concrete. It's a good project if we're not talking about beautification. if we're not talking about fountains, if we're not talking about wonderful entries into towns. We're not talking about that with this program. We're talking about good, solid concrete and asphalt to build roads and infrastructure statewide. Unlike Illinois First, this is focused on roads and transit. There's an enhancement program that will deal with the other things. Let that deal with it. Let's focus on economic development here. We match all federal funds. Right now, from 1995, there are still unspent earmarked funds from 1995 that nobody has thought about matching. What the governor has proposed in this is to say we can match the local funds. We want to move forward. That's what the governor's asked. If this isn't the right way, step to the table. Let's start talking about it. Again, I can't say this enough. The Illinois delegation put politics aside. Plain and simple. They're fighting like cats and dogs on judicial nominations. They're fighting like cats and dogs on energy. They're fighting like cats and dogs on the war in Iraq. But when it came to transportation, they didn't. That's all we're asking for here. They didn't link a vote on the highway bill to anything else. They voted on the highway bill with transit. I'm sorry for all the transit geeks out here. They voted on the transportation bill. Okay? They didn't tie other things in. They specifically did not tie other things in. That's what the governor has said. Here's his capital program. Here's a way to fund it. Let's do it. $6.2 billion for new highway improvements. 2.1 possible for transit. What's it mean? Well, we've got to match it. We got $600 million in above the line earmarks. Some may say that's free money. Well, you got to match it with 20%. So we do have to come up with the money to match it. The governor has shown a way. And out of the $1.25 billion in earmarks, the cost to cut the ribbons on all of those projects is about $7 billion. So do we wring our hands and say, well, geez, we don't have the $7 billion, let's not take it? No. Let's start these projects going now. Let's get the land where we can. Let's get the design where we can. Let's get construction where we can and when we can. Because if we wait, inflation is going to eat away at our program. We can match all federal funds. We can match local federal funds. Talk to the locals. Talk to some of the smaller suburban communities and ask them where they're going to come up with the match on their projects. Go out to Mercer County, out in western Illinois, and ask them where they come up with $180,000 to match their federal earmark. You know where that county chairman says he's coming up with it? He's got to take it away from his maintenance and do less maintenance to match the expansion of a road. The governor has said, here's a way to fund it. Let's talk public transit. Here it is, $425 million to match federal formula funds. Does it pay for the Star Line? No. Does it pay for the Circle Line? No. But does it pay to get the engineering done and all of the early work done so that we can go after the federal formula full funding grant agreements? Yes. And it allows us to do it today. Does it buy all new buses for CTA or PACE? No. But it gets them some. And the reason you have to bond it and not pay as you go, so that the transit agencies can sit there and know that they have the money and start drawing down their formula funds today. That's why you bond it. That's why you don't go pay as you go. Otherwise, we leave money on the table. Go ahead. Here's how we pay for it. Transit only. Last summer you heard a number, $170 million increase in sales tax revenue as a result of higher gas taxes. The second paragraph of the Economic and Fiscal Commission's report said, yeah, it is 170, but the net revenue increase is only 30 million. so that by the time you and I make our business decisions, do we buy more expensive gas? Yes, maybe. But do we go out to dinner as much? No. The net increase is $30 million. That's what the governor says we take. The $30 million incremental increase to pay for public transit. Again, not dipping any more into anybody's pocket. It's a fact of life. This is what gas prices are. Here's where the revenue is going into general revenue. So pay for transit. Again, I can talk all day. The governor talks much better on the efficiencies he's gotten in government. He has saved more money, reduced overhead, reduced staff. Yeah, there's a lot of complaining and everything else. But Illinois government is much more efficient today than it was before. And folks, a wise scholar said, I think, correct me if I'm wrong on my quote, Mr. Wise Scholar, government doesn't produce anything. Government doesn't make anything. They take the money, and the only way to cut government costs is to cut government. Is that kind of a paraphrase?
Right in the ballpark.
Right in the ballpark. I'm not as eloquent as the professor, but I've heard him a couple of times. But that's what Governor Blagojevich has done. Reduced the cost of government, folks. Make us more accountable. Our multi-year program was unveiled about 10 days ago. $10.5 billion, 6 years. Why 6 years? Why not 5? Look at the federal program. That's the reason. We could have gone down to 5 years. A lot of projects would have dropped out. And they all would have been the congestion mitigation and system expansion projects, folks. Because the minute we would have dropped out any project that it was the maintenance of the system or the maintenance of a bridge, the cynics out there would have said, the governor is chasing ribbon cuttings and doesn't care about the system. So that's why our numbers are higher on system repair and system maintenance. Even though at the federal level, they're down. Our numbers are up. We need to maintain the existing network we have. That's why it's 6 years. A lot was made of a comment that I made at the unveiling about an $80 million, up to $80 million, in potential bond projects that if the bond program doesn't go, we'd have to put into the multi-year program. $80 million is a lot of money. $80 million out of $10.5 billion is less than 1/10 of 1%, folks. We talked about having to find a place for up to $80 million, somewhere between $67 and $80 million over 3 years. That was the headline. If we had not said that, and we would have somehow found $80 million by taking a little here, a little there, quietly done it, our program wouldn't have been truthful. So by coming out there and being truthful, being open, being honest, we get whacked by the cynics. Again, it's less than 1/10 of 1%, and no projects are being held hostage. It's a simple fact of life. Is this enough? No. Will the Chicagoland area still be second in terms of congestion? Yes. Do we need to do more? You betcha. Let's wait until we get it all put together. Well, the way government has been going now and the way legislators have been going now in Washington and in Springfield, the longer we wait, all I can tell you is it'll get more expensive. Here's what the $2.3 billion brings. We focus on system expansion because we have maintenance taken care of. We have safety taken care of. What does this mean? It means 29 outside of Springfield, 51 south of Decatur, 67 coming up north from Alton and down from Jacksonville. Why are those important? You can't attract businesses without a 4-lane road in central and southern Illinois, folks, because the truckers won't drive on a little 2-lane road. and they're dying down there. The economy in central and southern Illinois is dying. They need system expansion. Congestion mitigation. Governor has proposed $200 million for I-55 widening. I-55 widening from Weber Road south to I-80. One of the most unsafe and congested interstates in the state of Illinois that we're not working on. It needs to be done, and it needs to be done today. You want to wait? That $200 million becomes $220 next year, becomes $240, $250 the year after. Go ahead and wait. But somebody has to tell those thousands of people each and every night as they're sitting on I-55, choked up, waiting to neck down at Weber Road, we don't care about you. We don't care that you're stuck in traffic. Those legislative leaders have to sit there and step up and say, even though the governor's shown a way to pay for it, we don't care. It's okay, wait for another 2 years. We've shown a way that we can start that program and that project in the fall within our budgets. $1.25 billion in federal earmarks. This is a key thing. Again, representing $7 billion worth of cut-the-ribbon costs. But they're all good projects. When I said we came in second, the only state that beat us was California, because Chairman Thomas of House Ways and Means came in at the 11th hour, brought a lot of money to the table, and guess what? He took half of it for California. My counterpart in California doesn't know what some of the earmarked projects are. He doesn't. I can tell you what every one of our above-the-line earmarked projects are and why we need to build them and why we need to build them today. Because we worked closely with our delegation. Not every other state can say that, folks. That's why we shouldn't leave a penny on the table. That is the key thing. Now, talk to some of the smaller suburban areas. I had the opportunity to testify at a joint transportation committee last year. And one of the reps said, well, geez, now that we have the earmark, how are you going to match it, IDOT? And I said, Representative, where's the earmark at? And he talked about it, and I said, well, it's up to the local to do that. And he goes, well, they don't have the money. And I'm like, well, here's a bond program that can help you. And that's why the governor put in to match the local earmarks. Has it been done before? No. But now that things are tougher, there's a way to do it, and there's a way to pay for it. Town of Rockford, City of Rockford, they can't come up and match all their money. Mayor Morrissey is sitting there saying, how do I combat crime? I need to improve my infrastructure. We're showing him a way. That's why Mayor Morrissey in Rockford is one of the biggest advocates for this. And guess what? He's on the other side of the aisle. He's a Republican. Who's he holding accountable? His Republican senators. Because he's telling them they better vote for this because here's what it means for the town of Rockford. Folks, road construction costs increased 10 to 15% last year. Jack and I know up here it went up just a little more than that. And it's not going down. Read any econometric forecast. Road construction, infrastructure construction is going up. And why? Look to China. And folks, we better be darn worried about China. They're building our interstate system in less than 15 years. It took us 50. They're going to be moving the goods that we can't move. They're going to be transporting the people that we can't transport. They're going to be taking more jobs from us that we can't do. So what do? We try and get the competitive advantage now. We try and get our contractors back into the futures market, going after oil, going after cement, going after steel. They're out of the market now. They're watching prices go up and down. If we can show them a bond program, they can get back into the futures market. That's what it's all about. And again, why build it today? Why do the bond work today? So that they can. Because next year, let's wait till next year. Let's listen to the cynics and wait till '07 to pass this. Is it going to be your 10% of the projects, Mike, that don't get built? Or John, your 10% of the projects that don't get built? Or somebody else's 10% that don't get built? Who's going to sacrifice their projects? Because that's what happens. Or you add more money that we don't have. Here's a way to fund it and fund the entire thing. The numbers, folks. And when you get bored, look at the website. It's all here. We show every one of our assumptions. Okay? Every one of our revenue assumptions is shown. There's a whole page of them. We show essentially flat motor fuel tax revenue. We show declining motor vehicle registration revenue. Why? Because anybody who bought a vehicle paying what GM pays or getting in on some of the incentives, you're not buying another car next year. So motor vehicle revenue, registration revenue, we've taken down. People buying less gas, we've taken that down. We're consistent or more pessimistic than the Economic and Fiscal Commission. And these are our revenues. We've assumed no increase in federal funds. Absolutely not. Not optimistic at all. Unified expenditures, we've inflated our operating costs. Kept it going up. We have not shown any more efficiencies in state government, even though our costs are going up. Can't get any worse than that. We've said, what's missing from our assumptions? Did we miss something? Tell us what it is. Let's run the numbers. These numbers have been available to staff on all caucuses since December. Nobody's come up with any questions. So why not vote for it? What's missing? Tell us what's not there. We've assumed the current debt requirements and debt structure that the legislature has asked for. $480+ million still left in the bank in the worst case scenario. Anybody know what's left in the Federal Highway Trust Fund at this year? Those less than deficit. Take the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, folks. The Highway Trust Fund goes into deficit in fiscal year '08. Governor Blagojevich has left $480+ million in the bank on the road side. He has only used a small increment on the transit side. That's why we say, what's missing? And again, you all want to sit here in the room and say, my neighbor is going to call my legislator. My neighbor will call my senator. Don't worry, somebody else will take care of it. Oh, don't worry, TFIC is pushing this. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Ira Silverstein and John D'Amico are my reps. They're for this. I've talked to them about it. But if I go to Senator so-and-so or Representative so-and-so who's from the suburbs or downstate, they know I don't vote for him. But you all do. And if you don't go to them and say, what's wrong with the governor's program? Why can't we do it today? It's not going to get done, folks. And again, here's the goofy transportation secretary saying, I'll still get my paycheck in November, which is a goofy thing for me to say. But the reality is those projects won't get done unless you call your senator, your representative, and say, what's wrong with the program? And IDOT's done an awful lot to get this done. But just remember all of this information. Promise made by IDOT, promise kept. The $140 million that we show that we can pay for this, it was good enough for a memorandum of understanding 2 years ago. When they talk about diversions, the diversions in 2004, during the longest legislative session ever on record, the legislature took control of the budget. The governor was taken out of it. The legislature took control. It's their diversions. They're the ones that now said, here's the level. And the governor has made sure that he keeps up with that level. So all of the reasons, all of the excuses have been responded to. So what's missing? I thank you for your attention. I appreciate it. The Alderman's question is, why can't we arm twist the railroads to use more of the railroad right-of-way for transit, for CTA, and things like that? Old history says railroads are land grant, and railroads were here before any of us, and I can give you 36 excuses. The reason is nobody's been able to get it through Washington. CREATE, though, is a unique system started by the city, joined in with the state. The governor's willing to put up $100 million of this bond money to go for CREATE, which will help significantly transit and freight operations here in the Chicagoland region. But for operating agreements and things like that, oh boy, that's way above my pay grade, Alderman.
Fritz Plaus from Corridor Capital. Mr. Secretary, big story in the Tribune this morning by John Hilkovich about the continuing problem with parking at O'Hare. And I know there is a proposal, if not a plan, to build a rail station into the new Terminal 7 on the west side. Is there going to be money, and is the IDOT going to support the idea of hooking Metra's suburban rail system into the west side of O'Hare? Hilkovich says only 5% of the people arriving at O'Hare now can get there on a train, and the reason is only about 5% of the people have access to a train, and that's pretty much the CTA Blue Line. Can we get rail service from the suburbs into the west side of O'Hare?
Well, I think that's part of the Star Line, would bring rail service into the western side of O'Hare. I know that a group, Business Leaders for Transportation, has done an awful lot of good, hard work on how do we do public-private partnerships. Right now, we can't do that here in the state of Illinois. I think it's a proposal that's worth studying. I've heard some good questions down in Springfield about that. But right now, this program wouldn't do it. Do we need to do something about it? You betcha, because I think the state of Illinois right now has to figure out how we're going to continue to bridge the gap of the federal unknown. This program lays the foundation for how we bridge 2008, 9, and 10. After that, I mean, we've got some money through 2012, but can we continue to expand? No, not yet. And that's why we have to focus on transit operations and then figure out transit capital also.
Any other questions? Well, give him a round of applause. Don't leave, you got all your duties. There is a general rule of thumb at the City Club. When any speaker brings talk about billions, the questions usually are not there. It's more of a written statement that follows. So, Mr. Martin, a one-year membership to the City Club.
Thank you.
The history of the City Club. We may need to borrow some of those from you eventually. And when you're going out there trying to raise another 100 million, 200 million, here's a cup.
Thank you very much.
We are adjourned.